Hi everyone, I'm Ellen March and this is So What with Sulky of America. Good morning everyone. I hope you're having a great start off to your Tuesday, and I have a lot of fun things to talk about today. First off, I want to let you know about our giveaway for today. So with every So What, we like to give something special to one lucky viewer to just show our gratitude for showing up and having, some morning coffee with me today, or in some cases, an afternoon snack. So today's giveaway is going to be a 6-pack of Sulky Poly Deco thread. Please give me a shout out and let me know if you have tried the Poly Deco thread. It is a really strong polyester thread. You can also use it for embroidery. You don't always have to use the traditional rayon thread for embroidery. This is a 40 weight thread. And the reason that I'm talking about it today is because I'm going to be talking about sewing with faux leather. Sewing with faux leather, weight fabrics as well, such as cork, things like that, and also doing embroidery on those materials, which can be a little bit daunting. So I'm going to go over a lot of my tips and tricks that I've developed over the years just sewing with these materials. And the reason I love sewing with these materials so much is because I love making bags. And honestly, I don't think I've ever met a bag pattern that I didn't like. I just fall in love with them. I see these bag patterns and I have to make them. The great thing about bags is they don't take a huge amount of fabric, especially these materials I was just talking about that tend to be on the pricier side. For example, cork or faux leather or something like marine vinyl. They are more expensive fabrics. Well, you only need a little bit to add a little accent, a little something professional looking to your finished bag. So I'm going to be talking about that mostly today. So the Poly Deco is a great choice for bag making, especially when you're working with these heavier weight fabrics that need a really strong thread. So I love the Poly Deco because it comes in tons of different colors, so you can definitely match your thread to your fabric, your faux leather, what have you. So that's the giveaway today. I'll be giving that away to somebody who likes, comments, shares, otherwise engages in today's post. And we will announce the winner later today. So be on the lookout in your direct messages on Facebook. That's how I will contact you to let you know that you won. So give me a thumbs up, give me a little heart, let me know that you're here, and we will be talking a little bit more about that Poly Deco. So the first bag that I want to talk about today is pretty new to the Sulky site. We just launched it this week, and it is the Holly Bag by Sally Tomato. I happen to love me some Sally Tomato, okay? If you're not familiar with this company, we did a webinar with Jessica, the founder of Sally Tomato. Let's see now, how long ago was that webinar? I want to say maybe it was in November. So we did a webinar with Jessica, and we went over working with cork fabric. She really, really loves showcasing cork fabric. And we did a really great bag pattern with some embroidery. Well, she has now come out with faux leather on her website. And I was lucky enough to participate in a faux leather fabric tour. So I got to experiment with this yummy, yummy fabric that she now has. And I played around with it like nobody's business. I did an embroidered bag tag. I really tested out the fabric, and it is like sewing butter. It is so amazing to work with. It looks like the real thing, but it doesn't cost like the real thing. And it really just gives a great, great professional finish, like I was mentioning, to your bags. So this holly pattern, I thought you guys were really going to love it because it's such a big, roomy bag that's great for traveling, taking with you on the go, whether, how many of us are traveling? I would actually like to know, are you guys still planning vacations? Because I have canceled pretty much everything that I had planned this summer. And, you know, it's bittersweet because it does allow us more time at home to be with our families and to really have the best garden on the block because we're actually here to take care of it. But, you know, we are missing the sand, the surf. You know, I'm in a landlocked state, so I get a little itching to go to the coast because I did grow up in California. But at any rate, you know, it does give us opportunities for really fun staycations. So a staycation is where you're staying close to home or even at your home and kind of making a vacation out of it, right? So maybe getting some fun baby pools and putting your feet in the water and, you know, grilling out every night, having some campfires, basically whatever you can do to make it feel like you're still on a vacation. So in my mind, you still need a great roomy bag, even if it's just a staycation. Or, you know, we can go on road trips, hopefully, or camping, things like that. This is a nice big bag that can store all of your stuff, your sunscreen, your snacks, your makeup, your uh, just anything you really want to tote in your normal purse and then some. So it's a nice roomy bag. And you can see the bottom of it and the strap and the little side gusset is made out of a heavier weight fabric, such as a faux leather or a cork or a super heavyweight canvas, or a denim would look really pretty with this too. And I just thought that it lent itself so well to machine embroidery because the center part of that bag, the cotton part where it kind of dips down into the accent piece, just has a great canvas for a machine embroidered accent. So that's kind of where I started with planning my bag. But then I discovered that I had this gorgeous cotton and steel print in my stash. And after going through my entire design portfolio and looking online and searching for just the right design, I just could not come up with something that didn't compete with the fabric print. So I will show you my finished bag here. And it's a really subtle print, so I probably could have added machine embroidery, and this is the area I'm talking about right here. I could have added machine embroidery and it probably wouldn't have interfered too much, right, with the bag, but just nothing was coming to mind. And then I thought, wouldn't it be great to create a little bag tag that you could take on and off and put on other things like your luggage or a key ring? I mean, this is completely removable. I just attached a snap to it so that you could put it around your strap of your bag, or you could take it on and off and put it on just about anything. So I'm going to go over the how-tos for how to make this little bag tag. And honestly, there's not a lot left over as far as scrap when you're working with the faux leather. And I don't know if you can see just how great this faux leather is, but I mean, it looks like the real thing. And look how pliable it is and how nice it is. It's so awesome. So at any rate, I forgot where I was going with that. Sorry. But we're going to go over the bag tag, and I'm going to go over first some tips that I have for sewing with a faux leather fabric like this, which, you know, it can be a little bit sticky under the needle, and also cutting tips that you will want to know. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. So I have an entire blog post on these tips as well as how to make the bag tag. And I did link to that in the comments, or excuse me, in the description of today's post. So you can go to the description and get the full instructions for what I'm going to go over today. So you could just sit back and relax and listen. And then if you want a more detailed tutorial, you can head on over to the Sulky blog and get all the information that you need. So First and foremost, when you are cutting out faux leather pieces, it is a great idea to use pattern weights. Now, pattern weights come in all different shapes, sizes, types, kinds, okay? This pattern weight, whenever I show anyone these pattern weights that I have, they're like little snakes and they're full of like sand or pebbles and they just have a little cap on the end. And they're made of like knit fabric, okay? Every time I show these, everyone wants to know, where do I get those pattern weights? And unfortunately, they just don't make them anymore. And I apologize for even showing them to you, but they're my favorite things, and I feel like you could make these fairly easily. You really just need to take a tube of knit fabric, fill it with some kind of stuffing that's gonna be a good weight, and you're off to the races. So I feel like you could make them. I have various different sizes, longer to shorter. They're great for going around curves, as you can see in the picture that I posted there. And they don't have any little sharp points. You know, sometimes you have those fabric weights that have the little teeth on them. You absolutely, of course, do not want to use those on this type of fabric or on cork because all those little holes are going to be permanent in your fabric. So you want to pick something that obviously is not going to harm your fabric at all. So definitely use fabric weights when working with this type of fabric when you're cutting out your pieces. Also, a trusty rotary cutter is really nice for going around the curves. I will say, so this faux leather has this like backing on it. It's very high quality, nice stuff. If you cut with your rotary cutter at a little bit of an angle instead of straight down, you're going to be able to see a little bit of that backing, okay? So you either want to angle it so that your backing is shorter than your top, so angling it kind of this way as you cut. And if you are not as skilled to make that consistent, because I certainly am not, just go straight down when you're cutting and make sure that you're not angling your rotary cutter either way. So be sure you do that. Of course, you can definitely cut this with scissors and be super careful. I like a rotary cutter because I can go around those curves and do nice fluid movements and get a nice clean cut. Now, this particular piece that I'm showing you is the accent piece, and it is not in a seam along the upper edge. You just top stitch it to the bag. So you are going to be able to see if you have any imperfections in that cut. So if you have cut and you veered off a little and you corrected yourself, you're going to have to trim that back just a little bit because it will be noticeable on your final bag. All right, so that is the piece I mentioned here. And you could see, maybe you can see, it is just top stitched on that front bag piece. And this has been stabilized and it has a layer of fusible fleece in it. So it stands up nicely to the bag as well. So speaking of top stitching, I love to use that poly deco thread when top stitching as well as for construction for the bag. And I actually use an Oregon top stitch needle. I used an 80-20 needle for that thread. And not only could I use the top stitch needle for the construction of the bag, but I also could use it for the embroidered bag tag. So I didn't have to swap out my needle unless, of course, there was an issue with it, and I made sure to start with a brand new one at the top of the project. I did experiment on the faux leather using a leather needle, and honestly, it worked just fine, but I didn't really need it because the faux leather is so buttery and so pliable and nice that the top stitch needle went through it perfectly fine with no hiccups. And like I said, then I could transition to machine embroidery without swapping my needle. So that was a little bit of a bonus. All right, So the other thing I did want to show you about this bag pattern, just because it's super cool, is it has this adjustable slider buckle for your strap. So you can make it as long or as short as you like by using this little slider buckle. And just little investments in purse hardware just really take your bags to another level of professional. Not only is there that, but there are little rings holding the strap, as well as fun purse feet. Okay, so and also our magnetic snap. And actually, this piece of the pattern, and you can see the little inner nice little zipper pocket. So this circular piece that is holding the snap is actually what inspired my machine embroidery idea for the bag tag. I made that exact circle diameter. Circumference? Diameter? You tell me. All right, so I'm going to go over the how-tos with you for that really quickly so that you can see how that came together. Oh, another great thing to mention when you're creating the bag tag, or excuse me, when you're sewing with faux leather or cork, these types of materials, is instead of using pins, which same thing as those pattern weights, obviously they're going to create holes that you cannot recover from. Instead of using those, you can use those little quilt clips to hold things in place. All right, so if you have these, that's great. You can also use little binder clips, like from an office supply store. So if you happen to have these, they work as well. These are particularly made for quilting and putting binding on. These are extra heavy duty, so keep that in mind, but they will work in a pinch if you don't have those quilt clips. Another great thing to have, if you happen to have this came with my machine, and it's a Teflon foot. The back of it has this coating on it. Can you see that? It has this layer on it, and it allows you to glide over that fabric without sticking at all. I also tested this faux leather using a traditional presser foot, but I will say I used my Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic 2, and it has like a built-in walking foot. It's this little arm that comes down. I don't think you can see it, but maybe you can. It's a little arm that comes down. See that? And it hooks on the underside of your foot, and it acts as an even feed for making sure that your fabrics are going through under your presser foot at the same rate, just like a walking foot attachment would. If you happen to have those things, definitely use them for these sticky, heavier weight, trickier fabrics, especially if you're pairing them with a lighter weight fabric like a lining, because one is going to want to shift away from the other while you're sewing under the presser foot. You can also try using your standard presser foot and just loosening the presser foot pressure so that it's not pushing down quite as hard on the upper fabric as it may otherwise. So those are some other tips. I have also heard of people taking a standard sewing machine foot and putting little strips of clear tape on the bottom of it. And the clear tape sort of mimics this Teflon coating and also allows you to sew a lot smoother. So you could also try that if you're having issues. Okay. Let's see, I've got a lot of questions coming in, so maybe before I go into the bag tag, let's address some of the questions and make sure that everybody's on the same page here. So, all right, Rosemary, I use painter's tape to tape the pieces to the faux leather. It doesn't leave any residue on the fabric and it makes your cutting accurate. Oh, talking about using the painter's tape instead of pattern weights. That is a great idea. No shifting at all. All right, fantastic. And let's see. Love your necklace. Where did you get it? Thank you, Michelle. So this, I don't know if you guys can see, it says Maker. I've worn it a couple of times on this show. It's in a rose gold finish, and they're actually available at sulky.com. So you can also have a Maker necklace. All right. Okay. Love those clips. Yeah, those quilting clips, you know, I use them for a lot of things, and I'll give you a little sneak peek because we're talking about them. I also made this bag up in some cork with some fantastic metallic embroidery. I was going to finish the show and show you that, so I will save it for my little teaser, but I made a little tassel for that bag, and to hold it together, because when I make a tassel out of cork, I actually learned from Sally Tomato how to do this. They have a video on their YouTube page. I used glue to hold the layers together as I wrapped it around, and then I used one of those clips to hold it in place while it dried. So these have so many different uses, and they're really great little sewing notion. But again, those binder clips also work well. Use that clip for snack bags. I don't know if you're talking about the quilting clip or if you're talking about the binder clip, but again, so many different uses. Oh, good point, Rosemary. Rosemary says when you use clips on faux leather, only clip into the seam allowance as they will leave marks on the faux leather. That is a really good point, especially if you're using those heavy-duty binder clips. They are so tough, right? They are going to leave a little indentation in the leather. So that is also another good point, is to clip only within that seam allowance so that you don't have the indentation showing on the right side of your bag. Thank you so much. That was a great tip. Could you use a contrasting faux leather where you use the cotton? Let's see. I don't see why not, honestly. You could definitely use a contrasting faux leather for the outer portion of this bag. I would eliminate the interfacing. I would eliminate that layer of fusible fleece because you are not going to need it at all. The faux leather will stand up to itself. And then your lining, just pick a pretty print fabric and you're good to go. I think that would be gorgeous, gorgeous. All right, I just want to make sure we're addressing all of our questions before we move forward. What is the size of this bag? Okay, it is quite large, and I have the pattern right next to me, and I'm going to grab a tape measure very gracefully and measure it for you because that is what I have close at hand. All right, so the bag is about, I want to say around 12 inches wide and about 12 inches tall, which can't be right because it's more about 12 and a half tall and about 12 inches wide. Maybe 11 and some change. It's good size. What is causing me to not measure it super accurately is it has this wide sort of side gusset, so measuring it straight across isn't as accurate. But if you go on the Sulky website where we have the Holly bag listed for sale, all the description for the bag is there. And yeah, fully lined, it's got a zipper pocket on one side, And then the other side has another pocket that is sewn down the centers to create two pockets. You could leave it one large pocket and put a tablet in there. You could also line that pocket with fusible fleece so that when you do put your tablet in there, it's doubly protected. So that's another idea. All right, so I am going to go through how to create the cute little bag tag. So again, this is totally removable. I used the scraps for this purse in order to make it. And that's also what I was saying earlier, is there are not a lot of scraps left, because when Jessica designs a pattern, she is very mindful of your use of your materials. She doesn't want you having a bunch of this leftover faux leather. It's pricey and she really wants you to get the most out of it. So you need to pay attention to the cutting layout when you're cutting your faux leather pieces, because if you don't orient them correctly, you may have to have a weird spot where you've pieced it. For example, I'll just show you what I did. I did not pay very good attention, and I had to piece the bottom part of my bag a little differently, let's say, than the pattern suggested. There is supposed to be just one center seam going down the middle, and then you position your feet accordingly. I had to have two seams because I was doing a photo how-to, and for example, I was photographing my piece with the pattern weights here, and I did not orient that piece properly, and I didn't have enough to cut it the way that the pattern suggested. So you really want to be mindful of that and make sure that you're paying attention to the cutting layout to make sure. But you will have some small pieces left over, and make a tassel out of those. Make a bag tag out of those. So these are the materials that I used for the bag tag. Like I said, I used the little circle template to cut 2 more circles for the bag tag. Then I chose a machine embroidery patch design from Urban Threads, and I want to make sure that it's not from Embroidery Library. So if Nikki could chime in and make sure that I am sourcing the design correctly this week, because I did not do that last week, I apologize. I use Urban Threads and Embroidery Library so frequently that I get them confused. So I want to make sure that you know where the design came from. But all the details are in the blog post, so you can get direct links for the design if you like that. It's called a typewriter font, and I made it as a freestanding patch design. So in order to do that, I used Sulky Sticky Plus. Here are my materials for that. I used the Sticky Plus. I used these 4 shades of the Pretty Poly Deco. And then, like I said, my top stitch organ needles. All right. So what we do with faux leather or cork for embroidery is hoopless embroidery. My favorite term, hoopless embroidery. We're actually just going to hoop the Sticky Plus with the paper side facing up. It's a self-adhesive, sticky tearaway stabilizer. So when we hoop the paper side up, we then score the paper within that inner hoop ring and tear away the paper to reveal the sticky adhesive. Then you can position your faux leather in the center of the hoop or wherever you have your design and sew it out. Now, I made my patch design on another scrap of faux leather. So I actually put a little square of faux leather in the hoop, and then while I was sewing it, I sewed it like a little applique design. I sewed my first circular stitch, and then I trimmed only the faux leather around those stitches so that when the final satin stitch was sewn, it covered the raw edges of my little leather patch. So what you're seeing here is actually 3 circles of the faux leather. The front, the back, and the little patch design all have like that patch design has like a faux leather underlay, if you will. And the design sewed perfectly. And that's a high stitch count design. I mean, that is a lot of thread. It's covering that entire piece of leather, and it did not perforate. It took to the embroidery beautifully. Now, if you don't want to do a patch design, you can simply cut your circles or embroider any design you like, a monogram, a little motif, whatever you like, directly onto your top faux leather piece, and then cut your circle out after embroidery is complete. So you have some choices there. All right. So excuse me, I'm getting a little out of order. You can see I have two little snap pieces, my male snap and my female snap. And before we go sewing everything together, I stitched my little patch piece using the Sulky invisible thread. And I believe I have a great photo of that. So you can see, sort of, I sewed my invisible thread just inside of that satin stitch border so that it didn't compete with the other threads that were in the design. Now you could certainly just use that dark purple thread and that matches the satin stitching and either satin stitch it again or just go inside that satin stitch circle to attach it as well. But I love using the invisible thread. Completely blends in. You have no idea that you've attached it that way. All right, so here you can see, excuse me, my two snap pieces. So before the embellished circle goes on top of the back circle, you want to put that snap in place on the back circle so that the inside of it is completely covered by your pretty stuff. So again, all of these instructions are spelled out on the Sulky blog, so you can make your own bag tag in this way. And I used a little snap setter tool. It looks like a pair of pliers to put my snaps on. It makes it super, super easy. And I highly suggest you grab one of those if you work with a lot of snaps. All right, so after you have your snaps, and I keep going back to the wrong photo, apologies. After you have your snaps, then you just put it on the strap of your bag, your little hook that's holding your strap on. And like I said, totally removable. You can put this on a key ring. You can make this a gift tag. You can put this on your luggage. It's just a great little identifier. And if you don't want your name or your initial on there, of course, create a little cute motif. How cute is that? So that is, in a very big nutshell, how to create the bag tag. And definitely head over to the blog to get the full instructions so that you don't have to try to decipher my ramblings for how this comes together. So it's just a really cute little idea for not only how to identify your bag, but also something to do with those scraps. You don't want to throw out the rest of that faux leather. It's so precious. So that's just a great idea for something to do with the leftovers. But again, I'm going to show you my super fun bag because I could not make just one of these, okay? I had to make it out of cork. I had to make a cork tassel, and I had to do machine embroidery as I originally intended it for the first bag in that pretty little area, which I will show you again on the pattern. So that little front spot, I mean, it just is screaming out for embroidery. Am I right? So, dun, 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 here is what I made. Okay, so This is a metallic flecked cork. Give me a thumbs up or a heart if you guys like this bag. And it's got kind of a reddish, coralish fabric. It's a little bit difficult to see the actual color on screen, but to match these, or to go with like the metallic flecks in the cork, I used a really pretty metallic thread. Sulky makes fantastic metallic thread, and I wasn't going to show this off yet because this is featuring a special thread that we have not even released yet. Okay, it's called Poly Star, and you're getting a sneak peek because you are our faithful viewers of So What, and I am really hoping to get this into the hands of everyone out there as soon as possible because this metallic thread is so easy to work with, and it's a 30 weight metallic thread. So it has more body to it, and it really pops when you're using it with embroidery. So let's see, where did I put my spool of it? I must have really hid it away. But trust me, as soon as we launch it, I will be showing it off in various different ways, but it's just really pretty with these outline embroidery designs. This design was digitized for 30 weight thread, so it worked perfectly. And it's just exactly what I was going for as far as placement of the design when I chose the holly bag to test out that faux leather. So again, it's with that buttery, awesome metallic flecked cork, and it has that same little circular accent piece for your magnetic snap. And then I couldn't let the leftovers go to waste, so I just created a simple little tassel and put it on this clip ring. And again, you can take it on and off. You can put it on your keys, put it on your luggage. So when I do little accents like this, I like to make them removable because one day I'm just not going to be feeling it and I might want to put it somewhere else. So those are my tips. Ooh, I also used that spectacular thread for the top stitching. Can you see that? It just goes with these little metallic flecks in the cork so well. So I wanted you to see all of the different ways that I interpreted the holly bag, and I hope that you guys grab up a pattern and really get creative and experiment because not only is it a great shape and it's, large enough to hold all of our essentials, but it also has so many different ways that you can embellish it and just really personalize it for yourself. And not only is this a great spot for the embroidery, but you can also embroider some corner designs down here on the accent piece. And that would be really, really pretty, especially if you had a more busy print for the cotton portion of it. Adding your embroidery down here so that it doesn't compete with that print is another great idea. So, and again, you've got your adjustable strap. So this can go crossbody or it can go short enough to go right over your shoulder. So I love the versatility of that. So I'm going to address some of the questions. I want to mention again, in case you missed the top of the show, our giveaway today is a 6-pack of Sulky Poly Deco thread. It is our Essentials pack. So you have your neutrals, your black, white, gray, and then a few of the colors, the red, the green, and the gold. And they would have worked perfectly with either one of the bags that I created, but Poly Deco is great for bag making. It's great for working with these heavier weight materials like canvas, like cork, like faux leather. So that is our giveaway today. One lucky winner will be chosen randomly who likes, comments, shares, otherwise engages with today's post. If you are a previous winner of one of our So Whats, give me a shout out and let me know. I love connecting with you guys. It's my favorite thing to tell you all that you've won something. It brings me so much joy. So that is today's giveaway. So let's address some of the questions that have come in. So, love the orange with the cork. I mean, it's a great summer color that also takes you into fall if you get kind of an orangey, corally red. And it's just great for bags. So thanks for saying that you enjoy that. All right. Great style of bag. Thank you, Cheryl. Yes, we have Sally Tomato to thank for that. Okay. What stitch length do you use on the straps? So I believe that Jessica recommends a 2.5 to 3.0 stitch length. You can go to 3.0 to have a little bit longer stitch, but on the straps, I will confess and say with the cork, these are actually a pre-made strap. I actually bought this strap already created. You can see there is no stitching on here whatsoever. I'm assuming it's kind of glued together by the factory that makes this cork. So I purchased this strapping already created. However, for the faux leather version and for the directions in the pattern, it's just a standard stitch length that I used. And it looks pretty tight. The stitches look pretty short, so if you want, you can go up to 3.0 or probably even 3.5, and it will be just as sturdy. And this faux leather, like, it almost has a little bit of stretch to it. Can you see that? So it's just super comfy to wear this crossbody style. Okay, let's see if there's any more specific questions. Oh, hey, Patience. Patience won last week. Hope you enjoy your prize. I'm sure it is on the way. All right, love the bag. I appreciate it. It's hard for me to get through all of the questions, but just know after our live feed ends, I always go in and I address the specific questions. And if you have a question that we didn't address today, you can always email us at info@sulky.com and we will get back to you with an answer. Another thing I want to mention, when you're doing top stitching or even this decorative embroidery, I mentioned that this is a 30 weight thread. Now, another 30 weight thread that we have that is beautiful for this type of embroidery or top stitching are our cotton blendables. And they happen to be on sale right now. Today is actually your last chance to get the sale. So Sulky blendables are, oh my gosh, I had a spool right next to me. I always have something right next to me and then it disappears when I'm on camera. The Sulky blendables are dyed randomly across the thread length. So you get random colors every 3 to 5 inches, whereas some traditional variegated threads are dyed very meticulously, and you will get the same repeating color pattern across the length of thread. So for example, if you're doing straight line quilting and you sew these straight lines, you will have the same repeating color pattern, right? Not if you use Sulky blendables. It will be totally different and randomized. So I love that. I've never met a thread that does that. It comes in 30 weight and 12 weight. So our 12 weight, which we like to use for handwork, but also super decorative work with a big fat needle. You can also use it in your sewing machine. Looks beautiful for quilting, but a design that's digitized for 30 weight thread and a design like the one that I just showed you that is all one color would look absolutely beautiful in those blendables. So definitely try out the blendables if you haven't. Take advantage of that sale that is today. Today's your last day. So take advantage, 30% off of the blendables. That might be as good as it gets. So check that out, and it would be really pretty on the embroidery, but like I said, also all of the top stitching. You know, you could pick a blendable thread that coordinates with your fabric and then use it for all the top stitching instead of blending your top stitching in with the leather. And that would give you a really pretty decorative effect. I'm actually kind of bummed that I'm only thinking of that now because that would have looked really pretty along that edge of the accent piece in the pattern. So if you have tried the Blendables thread before, give me a shout out and let me know how you like it. I absolutely love working with it, especially with hand embroidery designs where you're doing a fill stitch of some sort. It just looks gorgeous, and it gives a lot of dimension and play into the design. Liked the cork as well as the faux leather. Isn't it difficult to, it's difficult to decide. That's why I had to make 2 bags. So make sure that you get enough hardware when you purchase your bag hardware to make your first bag, because I immediately had ideas for a second bag, and then I was like, oh no, I need the purse feet, and I need the slider buckle, and I need the magnetic snap. So just buy a couple of different sets in some different finishes so that you can make the bag again whenever your heart desires. What needle size for the 30 weight thread and for the cork? All right, so for the cork, I also used a top stitch needle. You have a lot of different choices actually, and I have another blog post on working with cork fabric. I actually showed off that polystar thread on an episode of It's So Easy last year. I believe it aired last summer. So on the Sulky blog, if you search cork or cork fabric or working with cork, something of that nature, you'll find the blog posts associated with that show. You can also go to the It's So Easy website and watch that episode in its entirety. We've also posted it on our Facebook page previously, and maybe it's time to revisit it. I might repost it for you all so you can watch the whole episode. But as far as a needle with 30 weight thread, you can get away with a 90-14 top stitch needle. That definitely works. I wouldn't go any higher because you don't want a bigger needle hole in your cork. And always what I do to test out my needle, before I ever even put it on the machine, I will take my needle out. I will get a length of thread, and I will thread my needle before it's ever even on the machine. And if I have any struggles with it, if it's not going to go in, I know I need to size up my needle. Then I run my needle across the thread to make sure that it's going to glide across without any hiccups, without stopping, without any burrs, without anything like that. Now, if it goes too quickly across my thread, I probably need to size down my needle. If it stops and is resistant, then I need to size up my needle. Now, your needle choice also depends on the fabric that you're using. Okay, so a heavier weight fabric, you need a sharper needle. That's why we have needles like denim and leather and top stitch. When you're top stitching, you're usually going through several layers and bulky layers at that. So that's why I really liked using the top stitch needle for that faux leather. I also have used it for the cork. Now when you're using 30 weight metallic, try using a metal needle. Now that metallic thread is unique because it's actually not fully metallic. It has metallic flecks in it, and the rest of it is polyester. So hence polystar. So I'm going to go over that at length when I'm able to launch the thread. I don't want to tell you guys too much about it and whet your appetite, and then you're unable to purchase the thread and use it. So when we are able to get that into your hands, I will talk more about it. We also gave a little sneak peek of that thread to anyone who purchased a kit for our Sally Tomato webinar. The webinar I was talking about with our previous cork bag, and there's tons of information in that webinar about working with that thread, needles to use, how to sew cork fabric with ease, and you can access our webinars at any time on demand through the Sulky website. You go to resources and find on-demand webinars, and you'll be able to watch that one in its entirety and get tons of tips, and also hear from Jessica herself about working with cork fabric. So that's a really great resource. Polydeco I have never heard of before. Would be nice to win so I can try it. Yes, if you haven't tried Polydeco, it is a wonderful alternative to rayon. It comes in just about as many colors as our rayon thread does, in these vibrant, wonderful, shiny little thread spools, and a really strong thread, again, to use for bag projects, among others. Okay. All right, I just want to make sure that we are... Where did you find the pre-made cork straps? So there is a company called Fabric Funhouse, and they carry those cork straps already pre-made. The thing about them is they are a fixed width, all right? So you want to make sure whatever pattern you're using them for calls for the 1-inch strap, because that's what you will be getting. But huge time saver, and you don't have to deal with folding all that bulk to, eliminate your raw edge seams. But I do want to mention that when you're using the faux leather or even the cork, you just fold it over one time, and this is your raw edge. And yeah, you can see it, but it's not going to fray. And you have to be really close to me, not following social distancing protocols, in order to notice that that edge of the strap is raw. So you could do the same thing with cork, just fold it in half one time and stitch on either side, and you've created a beautiful strap. So you don't have to worry about folding those raw edges toward the middle and then sewing down the center, that type of thing. And quite honestly, I just used that pre-made cork strap because I happen to have it in my stash left over from a previous project. But it is a great time saver, and it, no stitching needed on those straps, and it's done. So that is a really cool tip. Can invisible thread be used in your sewing machine, or is it for hand stitching? Well, both are true. It is designed for machine sewing. It's great for machine quilting when you want your quilting to kind of disappear. It's great for, so many things. Applying, let's say, freestanding lace and kind of attaching it applique style to another piece, like a denim jacket. Use invisible thread for that. No one will ever see it, and your lace will just stand out. That's a great application for it. It comes in several different shades, so you can get the clear, the smoke, the black, depending on your background fabric or the stitches that you are covering in the case of lace. So you have some options there, but I have also seen people use it in hand sewing. We did a video series on cross stitching for beginners, and it's on our YouTube channel. And the designer, Amanda May, who did those videos for us, she attached embellishments to her cross stitch projects by hand sewing them on with invisible thread. She absolutely loves it. That's another great idea for it. And I highly suggest you grab up a spool or two, maybe in a couple different shades, just to have on hand for when you need it. And sulky invisible thread is like polyester thread. You can sew with it. You could put it in the bobbin. When you do put it in the bobbin, you want to slow down your bobbin speed when you're winding that bobbin, and also only wind about a third or a half bobbin at a time. It's just kind of rule of thumb when you are using invisible thread in the bobbin. Yeah, so I love using it in the machine, and I have also used it for hand sewing as well. It does not melt when you iron it. You can wash it, no problem. It's just a fantastic product. It's better than any other monofilament thread that I have worked with, for the simple fact that it acts like a polyester thread. It does feel, a little bit more wiry, obviously, than a traditional soft silky thread, but it performs that way in the needle. All right. Always happy when a new thread comes out. Me too. It's so much fun. It is so fun to develop projects and to get the creative juices flowing and show you the beauty of these threads and what they can do. So I hope you enjoyed today's Facebook Live. Again, blendables, 12 weight and 30 weight are 30% off. Today is your last day to grab that sale, so make sure you take advantage of it. And our giveaway today is our Polydeco Essentials Sampler 6-pack of Polydeco thread. So one lucky winner chosen at random from our comments and likes and shares today will receive that gifty. And thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I hope you enjoy making your bags. I want to see them. So if you post them on social media, please add the hashtag SewBetterWithSulky so that we can see what you're up to. So have a fantastic day, everyone. Again, thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time.